So we are going to get started. Delighted to welcome you all to the Fleming Museum tonight. Sorry. This one? Okay. All right. We are videotaping this tonight, so thank you. I'm Janie Cohen. I'm director of the Fleming, and as I said, we're really delighted to welcome you all here for readings by Cathy Park Hong and Neil Shepard tonight, which we're very much looking forward to. And I want to thank Major Jackson for this is season 4 of the Painted Word Poetry Series, which is sponsored by the Department of English at UVM and the Buckham Fund and presented here at the Fleming. And those of you who've been following it for a while know that we've been migrating deeper into the museum. So we started in the lobby and then in the marble court and now in here, and I think this is wonderful because you get a chance, you're surrounded by art and get a chance to kind of absorb the visuals as well. And I want to invite all of you to our opening of our fall exhibitions next Wednesday, a week from tonight, 5:30 to 7:30. We'll be opening 5 new exhibitions. We have permanent collections that are on display now for the first time in a very long time, pre-Columbian collection and Oceanic collection, as well as a John Singer Sargent show, Thornton Dial that you're sitting in the middle of, William Blake and Leonard Baskin right around the corner there. And it's really going to be a pretty terrific fall. So I am delighted to pass the mic over to Major. Thanks for coming.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Major Jackson. I am delighted to once again present another season of poetry readings that reflect the best in contemporary writing. And I want to thank some people because it's good juju to do so. It helps us keep going. Most prominently, my colleagues in the English department and the Buckham Fund, and alongside them, the Fleming's executive director, Janie Cohen, and her extraordinary staff, including Chris Farron and Chris Dissinger. Without their Herculean contribution and support, we would be poemless in Burlington. The Painted Word Poetry Series this year will feature some really dynamic poets, Pragita Sharma, Brenda Shaughnessy, John Woodward, and old dear friend of mine, Jeffrey McDaniel, who happens to be one of the funniest poets, I think, writing today. But tonight we welcome Cathy Park Hong and Neil Shepard to the Painted Word Poetry Series. Cathy will read first, followed by Neil. A poet's relationship to language is akin to a musician's relationship to sound, or a painter's relationship to oil, or a gardener's relationship to soil. And the pitch and fervor of that relationship is one of the defining markers of both the poet's style and unique vision. Here, I urge you to recall such poets as Gertrude Stein, Seamus Heaney, Gwendolyn Brooks, and Amy Clampett, poets whose poetry has and possesses the possibility of changing our relationship to words and metaphor, the vehicles of language itself. In reading Cathy Park Hong, we encounter another such poet whose poetry has the potential of not only purifying the language of the tribe, but of delimiting the realm of the imaginative from the real. Cathy Park Hong is a very important poet writing today, and in a minute you will discover why. She's the author of 3 books of poetry, translating Moam, Dance, Dance, Revolution, and recently Indian Empire, whose cover is just simple and elegant. Hong is a recipient of a Fulbright Fellowship, a National Endowment for the Arts, a NIFA, New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowship, the Village Voice Fellowship for Minority Reporters. Her poetry has been published widely in the Paris Review, McSweeney's, the Harvard Review, American Letters and Commentary, The Nation. She's a faculty member at Sarah Lawrence College and teaches in the low residency MFA program at Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina. Please welcome our first poet of the season, Cathy Parkham.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you, Major, for that beautiful introduction and for inviting me out, and I'm also really thrilled to hear Neil read as well. So, I guess, oh, okay, so I don't want to, yes, don't want the water bottle to be the centerpiece here. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Yeah. Okay. So I guess it would be only appropriate that I would begin with my latest collection, Engine Empire, which came out just last May. And let me just give you a very short, abbreviated introduction of the book. It's in 3 parts, three different, it's like a triptych. And I like to play with invented cities, invented landscapes, and there are 3 invented boomtowns. The first, The Ballad of Our Jim, is set in the Old West, and it's this invented boomtown, mining town. The second section, what's it called? It's called Adventures in Chengdu. It's set in present-day China, a boomtown in China, industrial China. And then the third section is set in the far future, and it's called The World Cloud, and it goes back to California. And it's sort of my own kind of vision of what the information age is going to become. And it's not all doom and gloom, but it's sort of, you know, imagining how information is going to kind of leap from our gadgets to our bodies and our minds, and what that's going to be like. So I'll start with the first section, Ballad of Our Jim. There's a narrative, and I'll just read a tiny smidgen of it. Ballad of Tombstone, Omaha. Days gone immortal. The bleached ruin of light lasts and lasts. No night to repair our minds. No white clip moon to give us rest. Only pitiless noon, where our sleep-starved consciousness patters faintly behind our squinted eyelids. Then sod homes no bigger than raised graves, and inside none dwelled, only nail keg and soapbox for chairs. We sacked the sod home down, drank drambeer. As we pulled the last of the Spud's phantom harridans rage from these mounds to chase us down, earth crusted to their salt skin as if God didn't finish his making, and we shot, 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 and nothing but plovers rose into the air. Okay. The next 2 poems are lipograms, it's a form that uses only 1 vowel. Apologies to Major, who's heard these poems a couple times. Ballad in A. A Kansan plays cards, calls Marshall a crawdad. That barb lands that rascal a slap. That Kansan jackass scats, camps back at Cava Yada Ranch. Hangs at cack, axe, and camp hat. Kansan's nag mad and rants. Camp Bass, Camp Bacchanal, and Garland, alas. Can't at last brag and crack Law's balls. Kansan's cantata rang at that Ramada Ranch. Mañana Kansan snarls, I'll have an armada, and thwart Law's brawn, slam Law a damn mass warpath. Marshall's a marksman. Maps Kansan's track, calm as a shaman, sharp as a hawk, says, that dastard Kansan's had, and gnaws fatback. At dawn, Marshall stalks that ranch, packs a gat, and blasts Kansan's ass, and Kansan gasps, blasts back, a flag flaps, half-staff. Ballad in O. Oh, Boomtown's got lots of sorter, odd horrors of throwdowns. Bold cowboys lock horns, forlorn hobos plot to rob pots of gold. Loco mobs drool for blood, howl or hoot for cottonwood blooms, throng to hood crooks to strong wood posts. So don't confront hot bloods, don't show off, go to blows or rows, don't sob for gold lost to trollops, don't drown sorrows on shots of grog. Work morn to moon, know how to comb bottom pools, spot dots of gold to spoon pots of gold, vow to do good. This is from the second section, Adventures in Chengdu. Market forces are brighter than the sun. My Aleph, my grandam, my Turks, frozen in time, Haroun, Kaduri, Sassoon, with their bolts of canary silk, sheared and sold down Chengdu's river alongside, a wedding of gamblers betting in a vintage sampan. Barges of creaky banquet halls spit out your prawn tail in this ramekin, shots of Crown Royale for all. Dear natty vessel of chemical dye, dear floating factory of cleaning supplies, let me buy you out. My wire hanger is mannered like the virgin neck of a Parmigian Nino nude. My lint roller can defer a Pomeranian dog. Chengdu, my artful boomtown, I will smudge out your horizon line with my thumb. I will stuff you cheek to jowl and pipette you with petrol, chasing out urchins nibbling on beetle kebabs. Foreigners, do nip from that blue label in her train, which is faster than the Shinkansen, powered by her merry laughs. Ho, 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 ha, 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 ho, 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 shall bring me my napkin. My thumb is smudged with the horizon. I'm going to read a few prose sections of this longer piece that's in the second part called Adventures in Chengdu. And it's sort of a kind of a tour of the city. And it's sort of modeled on Marco Polo's travels. Of the millennial promenade along the river. Vendors line the promenade to serve passers-by. They sell pinwheels, pancakes, and roast meats of all kinds, even sticks of prickly little seahorses. One female vendor keeps peeled apples under her armpit until they are saturated with her scent, and then she sells them so customers can luxuriate in both the scent of fruit and her ripeness. Along the promenade, the rabble is enraptured by the new tower across the river, but the vendors grumble of slow business. Officials installed cameras behind the vendors' umbrella fringes to catch conspirators. Today, there is no drama, so the vendors gossip. Is it true that the fried prawn vendor tilted his surveillance camera so it caught nothing but the sun? Officials executed him after they watched the useless footage of a sun bobbing up and down for 100 days. Why did he do such a stupid thing? He was a saboteur, said one. We should all destroy the cameras. Everyone knows about them, and it takes away business, said a third. It was for personal reasons. He was stupid in love, and his lover walked out on him and the vendor stopped short, for the cameras were recording. Of the old colonial Dutch quarters. When I imagine this city, it is not the city that I want, but the city that I fear. I too have an obsession. He is one of the painters who works in the Rembrandt factory. He paints 5 Rembrandt self-portrait paintings a day, which I hear are sold to rich townhouses and hotels in a place called Florida. He is renowned as the fastest painter in Chengdu, and he's completed 10,000 Rembrandt self-portraits. In the mornings, I walk past him when he is on his smoke break. Today, I catch him sniffing his hand. Of the old Ukrainian embassy that will be torn down for the hangar factory. Boomtown is Chengdu's brand name. How do you like Boomtown, Chengdu? Every day, 2,000 more people flood into Chengdu to work in our 2,000 factories. Do you know why? Chengdu is booming. Guides will say that 20 years ago, there was nothing but a gas station and a few scattered pig farms along the river. I was one of the few born in Chengdu, and it is true what they say about the farms, but the guides do not mention how officials used to dump all the cripples from the capital into Chengdu. Now that Chengdu is booming, they have rounded all the cripples and exiled them to a remote outpost up north. That outpost is also beginning to boom. All right. Now this is from the World Cloud, which is the last futuristic section. Engines within the throne. We once worked as clerks, scanning mothballed pages into the clouds. All memories outsourced except the fuzzy childhood bits, when I was an undersized girl with a tic. They numbed me with Botox. I was a skin suit of dumb expression, just fingerprints over my shamed. All I wanted was snow, to snuff the sunblades as shadow spokes, muffle the drum of freeways, erase the old realism. But this smart snow erases nothing, seeps everywhere. The search engine is inside us. The world is our display. And now every industry has dumped whole cubicles, desktops, fax machines into developing worlds where they stack them as walls against. What disputed territory? We asked the old spy who drank with Russians to gather information the old-fashioned way. Now we have snow sensors, so you can go spelunking in anyone's mind. Let me borrow your child thoughts. It's benign surveillance. I can burrow inside, find a cave pool with rock-colored flounder, and find you half transparent with depression. A visitation. You are at home. You are wearing bicycle shorts, though you don't own a bike. Outside your window, you see a flower you don't recognize. The voice of Gregory Peck booms, "Honey, suckle." You don't know anything anymore. You remember an old trivia show you watched when you were young. The contestant went to Stanford. You remember his name, Stan Chan. The first question was always absurdly easy, almost as if it was testing your listening skills. The host asked Stan Chan what a nectarine was closest to. A, orange, B, peach, C, banana, D, grape. Stan chuckled. Well, I think I should know this one. It's A, orange. You remember the host's expression. You look at the toaster and think taco. An ad pops up in the air for a trip to Cabo San Lucas. The snow is still beta. You feel the smart snow monitoring you, uploading your mind so anyone can access your content. Circuits cross and you hear a one-sided chat. Da, da, da. You tap in the air for the volume control and listen to Ravel. You refresh your feed. Nothing from him. It is too hot here. You hate this satellite California town near the satellite tech campus where you and your husband used to work as data scanners. When they laid both of you off, you tried work as freelancers from your home offices. You used to chirp at each other like demented birds. Another chime. It is a real chime. A man delivering your groceries. A dozen cantaloupes. He looks like your husband. You think of inviting him in. Why did you order a dozen cantaloupes? You hear a woman crying. Lately, you've been fascinated by a user-generated hologram, an ethnically ambiguous boy who pretends to drop dead from a shootout. The boy wakes up when his mother comes home. She scolds him and turns off the camera. You blink to go offline. It is like all the quiet Sundays of your childhood. You think you hear your husband sigh, but he's only breathing. He used to stare into the middle distance for weeks until you lugged him to bed. You tucked him in. And I'll read one more poem from this book, and I'll just read a couple poems from Dance Dance Revolution. A wreath of hummingbirds. I suffer a different kind of loneliness. From the antique ringtones of singing wrens, babbling babies, and ballad medleys, my ears have turned to brass. They resurrect 1,000 extinct birds, emus, dodos, and shelducks, though some, like the cerulean glaucous macaw, cannot survive the snow. How heavily they roost on trees in raw twilight. I will not admire those birds, not when my dull head throbs and I am plagued by sorrow. A green hummingbird eats me alive with its stinging needle beak. Then I meet you. Our courtship is fierce and indiscreet in a prudish city that scorns our love as if the ancient laws of miscegenation are still in place. I'm afraid I will infect you after a virus clogs the gift economy. Booming E-trade of flintlock guns sag, status updates flip from we are all connected to we are exiles. What bullshit. When in that same prudish city, they have one exact word to describe the shades of their sorrow, when they always sit together and eat cold noodles during white days of rain, always in one long table, though not all. As a boy, my father used to trap little brown sparrows, bury them in hot coal, and slowly eat the charred birds alone. In the green fields, no sounds, no brothers in sight. Holiest are those who eat alone. Do not hurt them, do not push them, insult them, do not even stare at them. Leave them to eat alone in peace. Okay. I'll just read a couple poems from my second book, Dance Dance Revolution. There's a tour guide in here, and there's another invented city in here called the Desert, and the tour guide is a South Korean dissident who speaks in an invented Creole. And I'll just read a couple of them. And she is the tour guide of the St. Petersburg Hotel. Oh, and the desert is like basically all the hotels are modeled on capitals around the world, kind of like Vegas. Rolls. Opal, oh opus. Behold. Neon hibiscus bloom beacons, tan lotion Tanya billboard, she or loosen Virgil. Then eyes take over as talkie Virgil. Want some tea? Some pellet? Who? Mine vocation, your vacation. I train my talk box to talk yeppa, as you Americans say, purdy. No goods, only phrases. Better the phrase, purdier the experience. 20,000 guides here, but I'm number one. Once Helsinki and I arrive, I say, I guide, but Helsinki and yap, no, too many guides. Then I sleep outside indoor, in wake, I say calmly, I guide. Helsinkians say, God damn it, yeah, okay, guide me. 1 million light bulbs in desert with cleanest latrines in our strobe-lit lobbies since desert non-sin. Each hotel to macasm at any city. Bangkok over here, Paris over there. I speak some Hanguki, Finnish, good bit of Latin, Spanish, some total desert Creole, and ever-changing dipdong, pendable on my mood. Ibid. Many American dumplings, unhandsome tacos, ejaculate. Oh, we hot diggity, this is the shit, it. But gut-ripping down to erect polis, we exploit gaggle of aborigine to back tundra country. Bad nitas, but better to scrape that fact under a history rug. So, shh. Oh, tempura. Oh, Morris. I used to move around like Inuit looking for sea pelt. Now I'm a double migrant, seated from Korea, seated from America, seated till I season the sizable mouthpiece roll. Now let's drive to interior. This is the last one. Karaoke lounge. Impish peeper, you eardropping. When I ululate till mine face a grapey pulp, croaking K-pop in this privacy room, me bumming see, shoo, ka, tours over, scug, shoo, no, stay. Some sing swallow nightingales, phlegm, some sing swallow nightingale in agora, but we closet singers in a box, a mic. A grog-sodden salaryman sing, oh Lord, no harem, just meself he keens, till he lurches into him mic with no invocatory might, him lung raisined like him balls, he sleep him, dreaming or tonger or tigers in red weather. We sing solo, tone deaf, gargle, a bauble, it pops dead o' night, a non-Sinatra canon. Ask a ballad bloom in room, then buzzer stop. So you want to hear mine story, ab initio, about mine domus, about Sa? Mine mater, rest her soul, sang for all, lung, a fireplace breather, bronchial tree aflame till she spit a blood wad. She sang pansori, one beat drum, a cobell, whole day a story sung, Tongseong. Ari, epic song lasting 2, 3, 4 days. Sponge up the Han, 슬픈 얘기, 사랑한 남편, with only a fan, a jug to wet her throat. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a nice ride. Neil Shepherd earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Vermont. Later, he earned a Master of Arts degree in creative writing at Colorado State University. And he earned a PhD at Ohio University. And we can proudly say this alumnus of UVM has done it proud. He is the author of 5 books of poetry, most recently Travel, Untravel, and an upcoming chapbook called, appropriately, Vermont Exit Ramps. His 3 earlier collections are This Far from the Source, I'm Here Because I Lost My Way, and Scavenging the Country for a Heartbeat, all from mid-list. His poems have appeared in numerous journals, Boulevard, Harvard Review, New England Review, Paris Review, and the Southern Review. Speaking of his last volume, poet Emin Grennan states that Neil Shepherd stays true to the evidence of his eyes and reaches for an awareness that is informed by philosophic attention. Our state poet laureate, Sidney Lee, celebrates Neil Shepherd for not writing glib or ill-earned tourist poems. This is a poet who does more, this is a poet who does more than use travel, popular theme in poetry and literature, as more than an allegory for the interior journey of the soul, but evocatively casts before us worlds and lands and language that is exacting, modulated, and prepossessing. Neil Shepherd is the senior editor of the Green Mountain Review and a founding member of the poetry jazz ensemble Po Jazz. He is recently retired from his teaching post at Johnson State College and now teaches in the low residency MFA writing program at Wilkes University. Neil Shepherd lives between here, Vermont, and New York City. Please welcome him home.
Thanks, Major, and what a wonderful reading, Cathy. And now for something completely different is easy to say after Cathy's reading. Shall I move these up a bit? Can you still hear back there? Okay. So I'm going to start with a poem from my third book, This Far from the Source, which is set mostly in Vermont. It's an American book, in the American grain. The latest book, Travel, Untravel, gathers together my foreign travel poems. I'll read from that next. I won't read yet from the Vermont Exit Ramps book. That will come soon. I'll start with a poem called Oh, on an April Morning. And it takes place in a art colony in Virginia. And it's sort of what happens when nature and human nature mix. There were very loud artists there late into the night. Oh, on an April morning, I'm ready to murder the flowers. The all-night word fest left me in some indeterminate schwa of sleeplessness, neither long on yawns nor persnickety and testy, but stunned, stoned, seemingly systematically taken apart by human sounds, verbs, nouns, the little modifiers, expletives, pronominals, signs and reference, all part of human grammar, that thing I love, and human drama, that thing I hate, which kept me listening for their rhetorical flourishes. Lean in for the sweet sotto voce, then gradually lean out for the rising tonal babble, snickers, snorts, giggles and guffaws, interrogatory, exclamatory, imperative, imperious, ablative, declarative, hortatory, denunciatory, importuning, simpering, sniveling, wheedling, whining. Oh, it kept me up all night long, while the flowers closed their ears and slept. I'll murder them, I will. And since it's autumn and a gray day, I thought I would read one more poem from this book called On the Occasion of Paul Carrier's Death. It's an elegy for a Johnson farmer. I live in Johnson, Vermont, and neighbor who brush-hogged my fields for many years. It's also an elegy of sorts for small-scale farming in America. On the occasion of Paul Carrier's death, Thanksgiving Day. Inarticulate now is he who disappeared under the iron back of his tractor. Hauling logs on a steep Vermont slope, he rolled under the hard mechanism of his life's work and lay pinned by the wheel. I'm making it up as I go, no neighbor to relay the details. And without them, he's leaving the earth too soon. Firefighters have already levered the tons of steel from his chest. The ambulance has already plucked him from November leaves and mud. Cars have carried mourners to his widow's home beneath the 100-year cottonwoods. The adze-planed edges of the closed casket have been prepared, and the realtor come with his hammer and sign. There has been no time to fit myself into the proceedings. I, who knew him passably enough to know the depth of our differences, and still to admire the burly, barrel-chested farmer who brush-hogged my fields and rehearsed the history of this hilltop. To stand with him and survey the acres before he mowed them was to prepare each time for his death. To stand, spit, and talk across the distances of our chosen lives, the farmer and the teacher. To hear in our exchanges the cringing cliches of two men lost to each other. To hear, yet more than this, some tentative figure groping along the stone wall of two men's mental properties and arriving finally at the gap where the old carriage road once thrived with farmers, teachers, and all the odd figures of the community, and take it back to the 1940s, when Paul Carrier farmed alone on this hillside, fashioned a rope tow during mud season to skim his milk jugs down to the village, and back further to the first plot owners of the 1840s who planted cottonwoods, raised the house, trees and house growing together, the house doubling again as generations of farmers milked, hayed, froze, and endured, until Paul bought the farm in 45, farmed, froze, fell, and rose up again, time after time, herd after herd, until time passed him by for good at the swishing tail end of the century, and he joined the farming legions going under. Then rose again and turned his hand to even smaller scale miracles of survival: carpentry, logging, field work, and talking, delivering our firewood, hammering our homes, rehearsing, reharrowing the local hilltop history, until this Thanksgiving, when the iron machine reared up and crushed him, and his moment of going is upon us, where I've tried to hold him before he vanishes into history, into the hillside cemetery beneath the chisel stones, or crosses to the sidereal isthmus, the blue-black azimuth, to the place I've always imagined beyond imagining, where he can perch on the crown of those 100-year-old cottonwoods, sing for all he was worth, and I can let him go. I'm going to read the rest of the poems from this book, Travel, Untravel. I'll read the title poem, and if you take a look at the cover, you'll see that the T's for travel and untravel are in parentheses, which suggests, I think, some of the raveling and unraveling that occurs when one travels to foreign cultures and doesn't know the language, the customs, the mores, and for me, I'm often reduced to this nub of personality. So this poem has several foreign words which I won't translate, so perhaps it'll give you a lot of the exotica and perhaps give you some of the dislocation as well. Travel, untravel. You've met them, travelers half returned from afar, curled on a couch, comfortable, uncomfortable, worrying gifts from elsewhere, a tattooed cow skull, a friend's gamelan inlaid with bone and pearl, a chipped tiki from a tohua. You've seen them unravel as the other world spins into view. Perhaps you've felt the vertigo too. The pig's throat slit, spit dripped in a kava bowl, maggots in a plate of noodles, squid's eye stabbed with a hecky stick, its inky signature floating across the coral reef. How well you know the abrupt dislocation of matter. Firewalkers in Fiji, blue glaciers in Norway, eyes squinting in Tahitian sun, wide open over Mongolian grassland. Your gaze become the windows of Chartres, the glazed mosaics of the Alhambra, your ear the growing comprehension of Shanghai slang, flamenco shout, Marquesan pig grunt, your hand gesturing toward the street, the sea, the rim of the horizon, become a white flash of surrender. And I thought that since I had come back to my alma mater, and I would read a poem that I actually began when I was an undergraduate here. I was doing a study abroad year at Oxford, and during one of our 2-week vacations went to Greece to the island of Corfu, one of the fertile islands between Italy and Greece, and I started a draft of this poem. So this was back in my 20s, and worked on it over many years, sort of triage mission, and finally had a draft that I thought would work. Eventually was taken by New England Review and ended up in this book. Corfu. Late afternoon, we watch the waters change. Aquamarine, cerulean, royal blue, blue violet, and now violet, deep violet, and now black. The patio light says your eyes are blue, your lids purple, your skin copper. The glow of Greek mornings still upon your face, and what came later. Something far from the jeweled coastlines and secret coves where lovers dive, make love, preserve each other's bodies with sun oils. Somewhere far into the interior of the island, where groves of orange, lime, lemon shiver in heat, where fragrant myrrh and olive mask a far older smell. All comes back to us this evening in the sweep of mountain wind. We feel a certain nakedness, remembering the backfire of our mopeds on the mountain road. Young fruit pickers perched in the foliage, their heads emerging like globe fruits as we passed. Arriving in a whitewashed village, we blew black smoke and siesta sun until the children pegged pebbles, pointing and running and begging. Women's black-veiled heads hung out their windows, and their bony fingers pointed. Town fathers plied us with ouzo, retsina, then wrapped their legs around us in an old Ionian dance, and their hunger drove us farther out on the mountain road, where blind beggar widows huddled in their black shawls. As we sputtered and belched black fumes, they caught us in the cross of their eyeless stares, worse than the eye of the all-knowing. 2 black holes for sockets, and the leprous nose, and that last hole of darkness where the mouth opens in need, the language foreign but familiar to any traveler. Tonight, we still see them as the Corfu waters go violet, go black. Hands rise from scaly limbs, and they beg with their missing fingers. This next poem is called I Say Nada to Nada. And this poem covers a 30-year span, recording 2 visits I made to Cadiz. It's a city originally founded by the Phoenicians, sticks out into the Mediterranean near the Straits of Gibraltar. And nada, as you know, is nothing or nothingness, something of which Hemingway had a lot to say. I say nada to nada. Okay, let's get Hemingway out of the way right away. Here's the gun. Goodbye. De nada. Now let's get on with the main subject, back when there was a subject, nada. 33 years ago in Cadiz, I lost myself to nada. And who hasn't? Or else, how has one lived? Lost my rude tongue, my identifying swagger, my famous self-possession, all falsified and forfeited in a series of drunken, deteriorating days veering toward nada. So what, you say? Okay, here's the gun. I was 20, ripped jeans, rucksack, cervezas, and chasers. I was dinner at 5 o'clock, no entiendo to every goddamn thing. I was guidebook challenged. Okay, cock it. I slept on a Urail pass, wandered in the cobblestones muttering my one line, Donde esta Barreto Pension. Lost my lunch on a sour train, slow with goats. Don't I sound like everyone else? Like nada? Okay, uncock it. Point it 33 years later. That's how long Christ wandered this dust ball before he choked on it. And though I suffered my own El Greco scenes, it was nada compared to Jesus' solo journey. No, I found other loves, many who washed my tired feet at night, then lash them to my street shoes in the morning. What I'm saying is, Nava hid in the smell of my socks, Nava hid in the laundry lint in my belly button, in the husks of marriage rice, in the umbilicus sliced away from my daughter as she squeezed toward the light. Now I'm solidly en familia, mi muchacha y mi mujer, holding me up, holding me back if I move too fast toward the hookah tables. I progressed is what I'm saying, toward somethingness, toward those slow talkers inside me who cock their heads and give me that I'll be here a while look, but different than the old glazed stares at the bars, the old Nava. The other side of en familia, the sock smell, the lint dust still linger every day, and other identities go hungry. But here in Cadiz, I line them up side by side at the tapas bars, and they talk it out under the 1,000-year-old trees, great grandsires of trees planted by the Phoenicians, those first wanderers who rode the swelling nothingness of the sea and settled finally on this solid, sea-lashed piece of land. One more from this first section, which I set this book up really as a journey from kind of initiation experiences, sort of birth, sensory, sensual, through adult conflict and on toward old age and death and beyond to the afterworld. Very ambitious. This last poem of this section is called Keats' House, Hampstead Heath. And those of you who've been to Keats' house know it's north of London and that he lived there for a time with his friend Charles Brown. And during some part of Keats' residence there, who should move next door but Fanny Braun and her mother. It was then a duplex. And this poem addresses that sort of relatively small, happy time when Keats and Fanny were in love. As you know, Keats died when he was 26 of tuberculosis, which had killed his brother Tom as well, who he nursed to his death. Also, this poem, I was there in spring, so I set the poem in spring, unlike Keats' favorite time, autumn. So this poem is perhaps a debate with Keats. And it starts with an epigraph. I'm certain of nothing but of the holiness of the heart's affections. Keats' letter to Benjamin Bailey. Keats' house, Hampstead Heath. Spring insists on these pink flowers loaded with nectar-obsessed bees, not the drowsy sounds of nightingales you heard under the plum boughs, not the clammy cells of autumn bees, nectar to get over death. Lift Glum up from his supine pose on the sofa bed and lead him to the scented garden, as when Fanny breathed beyond the lavender wall, and you, alive on the other side, began to stir to her scent, felt the paper-thin cell that held you apart begin to vibrate, both of you humming up and down your lengths for the first honeyed measures that would take you through a year. Spring's green heath, summer's swimming ponds, before the sphagnum bog browned and arterial blood coughed up from a lung, deposited its bright death warrant on your handkerchief in midwinter, sent you southward to your name writ in water. Hold the nectar in your hands today. Wisteria purples the canopy over the walkway, no wistfulness in the air. Tom's death, Fanny's distance, Charles's departure after you grew too weak to ramble the hills with him. Suspended on a bough, on a painted urn, in an eager breeziness the bees possess when they're sticky with honey. If Fanny asks for a love courtesy that lasts forever, say yes. I'll read a few more. These are from my time in China, where I was teaching in Shanghai. And after I was done teaching for the year and knew enough Chinese at that point, I traveled with my wife out to the west of China. This records a moment of conflict, as one often has with a traveling partner when circumstances are difficult. And this is in Xinjiang province. And there are three Chinese phrases that I'll tell you. Wo yao means I want. Wei guoren, that's us. Westerners or barbarians, they also call us dabitsa, big noses. And meyo, not have. I was there in the 1990s, before the superheated economy, and therefore, to most requests for anything, you were told, meyo, we don't have it. And it could be almost anything you asked for, meyo. And the title of this is Travel, Untravel, Caller. Caller is one of the four humors. This one is the bitterness and bile. We had come to the great wall's end in the desert of Jiagyuan. Our tempers flared across the crumbled battlements out into the red heat. There were weeds, thorns, a few hard-shelled bugs. Love reduced to a black carapace, under which a stinger, a biting mouth, a reflex, a poison. Heat withered our patience. Our bowels, stung by a virus, made us say words we'd regret. Peevish, pernicious, wo yao, I want, and nothing else. We both stormed off. Stormed could have brought some moisture to this desert, but no, this storm was a hot wind, stinging sand in the face, chipped sandstone from the last outposts that would cut and bury us, Weiguoran, barbarians. Stripped of camouflage, of greenery, fluidity, we showed every tick and flaw. I could not stand one more day of mayo, not have, not possible, not ever. I could not stand in one more ticket line, elbowing for a hard sleeper berth out of the heat. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow and tomorrow, stretching away like the great wall disappearing into red dust. There was a Hami melon, the best melon in the desert, it was said. Pale green rind, and inside a thick, luscious yellow. Mayo to melons, mayo to Hami, to anything but a few dry husks in the streets where others had stood ticketless for days. I could have spit in any traveler's face. I could have spit in her face and she in mine. I could have spit in the wind and hit myself and liked it. I could have tasted black bile and every phlegmy word launched against the dryness. Down beneath the desert in a crypt, I saw an ancient face preserved in this dry heat, shrunk to a withered visage, devoid of the good wetness that waters our lips with thanks. Its lips turned down in an arid scowl for 4,000 years. There was, down in the little museum desert, this scowl. And in case you think poets are always the heroes of their poems, this is not always the case. I will read a companion piece to this, maybe a little bit more upbeat, called Dutsa. And this also takes place in the Taklamakan desert of China. And it mentions two ethnic minorities, the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs, who are often in conflict with the Han majority, the Han Chinese. And also mentions the Tian Shan, which are the heavenly mountains out there. And Dutsa itself means diarrhea. Dutsa. 7 hours of irritable, ass-hard desert bus ride, Uyghur and Kazakh squabbling with Han. Yellow, bilious light glaring from the Taklamakan from their eyes. Finally, the hot wind withers us into fitful sleep. The Han beside me dozes on my shoulder. The Uyghur in front flops back in the bench seat, his body slipped between my legs. The Kazakh behind me slumps forward, snoozing between my shoulder blades. And the American woman beside me, my dear Kate, doubles up in a painful ball. Dutsa. No bathroom on the bus, no rest stop, no tree, bush, or rock. Somewhere out there lies Turpan, the lowest oasis on earth, a salt pan of scorching heat where rain evaporates before it falls. Yet grape trellises line the streets, cool shade along the Silk Road. What's the secret? Snowmelt hundreds of miles off in the Tian Shan, brought down by ancient irrigation, each bickering tribe hand-digging its portion beneath the sand so that water flows in dark channels all the way to the market town. But that green swath is hours off. Something must be done in the withering moment. I wake the Uyghur and whisper, Dutsa, and point to my wife. He nods and whispers to the one in front of him. And on it goes, nodding and whispering, until the last one shouts to the driver, Dutsa, and the whole bus shakes and skids to a stop. Kate scampers out, up over a low dune, a second, a third, and squats. Now the men lean out windows, others climb to the roof for the best view, and all laugh and clap each other on the back, Kazakh and Uyghur and Han, to see Kate's white butt above a sand dune and green explosions watering the desert, until a cheer goes up and seeds the few wisps of clouds. Kate wipes up a roll of toilet paper like a white bunny tail, and again men laugh and cheer. I give up, give in, from anger to good humor, and cheer my red-faced wife, the blood far up in her cheeks, the eyes dazzled desert blue, the taut mouth suddenly relaxing into the body camaraderie. How duela, better, feel better, they all say. And the bus rolls into rain that makes the desert bloom and cools tempers all the way to the wine-crazed town of Turpan. Thanks.
Not sure if I want to come up to the mic after that. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and we invite you back next month, last Wednesday. The date is failing me right now, otherwise I would say October 31st, Halloween night, for two fine poets. Please look us up on Facebook and check out the exhibit here and visit the website of the Fleming for more upcoming events. And I want to thank the Fleming Museum again, as well as the University of Vermont's English Department. See you next month.